There exists a room, somewhere in your city, that is arguably one of the quietest places on earth. But the silence within it is not the serene quiet of a library or a mountaintop. It is a quiet that is forged in the aftermath of the loudest and most chaotic of human events. It is a place where the final, frantic echoes of violence, the piercing shriek of sirens, the urgent shouts of first responders, the shattering of a family's world, finally fall away. They are replaced by the gentle, almost imperceptible hum of a filtered ventilation system and the focused, rhythmic breath of a single, dedicated professional. This is the profound paradox of the restorative art studio, a silent, meticulous workshop where the brutal story of a homicide is carefully, compassionately, and painstakingly rewritten into a final chapter of peace. Before we start, a quick roll call. Write in the comments which part of this planet you're watching from, and then just listen and enjoy. We are about to step through a door that is almost always closed to the outside world, into a space of immense gravity and purpose. And as we do, we will hold one central question in our minds. In the face of brutal violence, how do we use science, art, and compassion to restore a final image of peace for those left behind? Over the next hour, you will discover the demanding and little understood craft of the restorative artist. We will follow the solemn journey of the deceased from the scene of a crime to this quiet room, and we will witness the incredible fusion of medical knowledge, sculptural talent, and deep empathy required to mend what has been so violently broken. By the end, you will understand that this work is not about denial, nor is it about creating an illusion. It is about a final, powerful, and deeply human act of care. The noise of a violent death is a shockwave, a tectonic event in the lives it touches. It begins with the act itself, a physical and auditory rupture in the predictable fabric of life. But that initial sound is only the beginning. The noise expands outward in concentric, deafening circles. First comes the official noise, the clinical, procedural language of law enforcement and forensic teams cataloging a tragedy, their voices intentionally devoid of emotion to maintain composure. Then comes the public noise, a relentless and often invasive cacophony of media reports, flashing headlines, and the digital wildfire of social media speculation, reducing a complex human life to a single sensational data point. And beneath it all, the most piercing sound of all, the private, internal noise of grief, a raw, disorienting scream that fills the minds and souls of the family left behind. It is a storm of chaos, a vortex of trauma that pulls everything and everyone into its center. The person at the heart of it all is lost twice. First their life, and then their identity, which is suddenly and violently overwritten by the label of victim. Their life story, rich with nuance, love, and laughter, is tragically abridged to a single horrific event. And then, after the necessary rigors of the coroner's investigation, after the legal procedures have been meticulously followed, the deceased arrives at a place defined by its very antithesis, a profound and purposeful quiet. This quiet is the first and most essential tool of the restorative artist. It is a deliberately cultivated environment, not just for concentration, but as a form of profound respect. It is a space intentionally insulated from the storm outside. Here, the news reports do not matter. The public speculation has no voice. The only story that is given credence is the one held in the memories of the family and the physical reality that lies upon the preparation table. Think of this room as a kind of airlock, a transitional space between the chaotic outer world and a sanctuary of focused care. The deceased, having been through the harsh, impersonal machinery of a medico-legal investigation, is now in a place of dedicated, singular attention. The professional who greets them is not a detective looking for clues or a reporter looking for a story. They are a thanatologist, a specialist in the art and science of death care, whose sole purpose is to offer comfort to the living by honoring the dead. The quiet in this room is layered and multifaceted. There is the physical silence, of course. The walls are often soundproofed. There are no ringing phones, no surprise interruptions. The tools are laid out neatly on stainless steel trays, not with the coldness of a surgical theater, but with the organized precision of a sculptor's studio. Waxes of varying densities and opacities sit in small pots. Palettes of specialized mortuary cosmetics are arranged by tone and temperature, like an artist's oil paints. Hypodermic needles finer than a human hair, fine sutures, delicate instruments for tissue manipulation, and soft clays for rebuilding facial architecture are all within arm's reach. But beneath this physical silence, there is a psychological quietude. The professional must cultivate an inner stillness, a deep calm that allows them to confront the devastating reality before them without being emotionally paralyzed. They are the calm eye of the hurricane, the steady hand that works with precision amidst the wreckage. This state is not one of cold detachment. It is a highly disciplined form of compassion. It is a profound understanding that their own emotional turmoil would be a disservice to both the deceased and their family. Their role is to absorb the chaos and, through their methodical and gentle craft, transform it. This process of transformation begins with a simple, respectful act of witness. The restorative artist must first understand the full extent of the trauma. They read the coroner's report not as a document of horror, but as a clinical and anatomical blueprint of the challenges they face. They assess the body with a trained eye, yes, but also with a profound sense of the humanity that lies beneath the wounds. They are looking at the damage not as a final, gruesome statement on a life, but as a series of problems to be solved, a complex puzzle to be pieced back together with skill and patience. This initial stage is crucial. It is where the professional's mind begins to work, visualizing the path from what is to what could be. They see the broken bones not merely as fractures, but as the underlying armature that needs to be carefully and invisibly rebuilt. They see the damaged tissue not as an end, but as a canvas upon which they will work to recreate the miracle of a human face. And always, they hold in their mind a photograph of the person in life, laughing on a holiday, smiling at a wedding, resting in a favorite chair, and that image becomes their North Star. That is the person they are working to reveal once more, the identity they are striving to reclaim from the violence. The silence of this workshop is also a space of sacred translation. The violent act that ended a life is, in its essence, an act of dehumanization. It reduces a person to an object of violence, a statistic in a crime report. The work of the restorative artist is a deliberate, quiet, and powerful act of rehumanization. Every suture placed with meticulous care, every feature gently reshaped with wax, every touch of color applied to restore a natural complexion is a silent statement that this person mattered, that their identity is infinitely more than the violence that was inflicted upon them. The artist is translating the harsh, brutal language of trauma back into the soft, familiar language of personhood. They are taking the chaotic evidence of a violent ending and restoring the recognizable narrative of a life. This is why the quiet is so absolutely vital. It allows for the intense focus needed to see beyond the wounds and to remember the face that a mother, a father, a partner, or a child longs to see one last time, a face they can hold in their memory forever. Ultimately, the quiet after the noise is about creating and holding a threshold. It is a protected space between the violent reality of a death and the beginning of a family's long and arduous journey with grief. The restorative artist's goal is to create a final memory picture that is peaceful, dignified, and blessedly familiar. This image does not and cannot erase the tragedy, but it can soften its sharpest edges. It can provide a focal point for love and remembrance that is not the crime scene or the autopsy report. It allows the family to say goodbye to the person they knew and loved, not the victim they lost in a maelstrom of horror. It is a final act of service, performed in stillness and in silence, that empowers the family to begin their own slow, difficult journey back into the world, carrying not just the sound of a tragic end, but the quiet, enduring memory of a cherished life. The work done in this room is a testament to the human impulse to find meaning, to restore dignity, and to offer care even, and perhaps especially, in the face of the most profound and unimaginable darkness. Before the restorative work can begin, there is the arrival. It is a moment that punctures the deliberate quiet of the preparation room, but only for a short time, and with a practiced, solemn efficiency. There is no fanfare, no siren, no urgency. The vehicle that arrives is discreet, its movements slow and respectful. This is the final leg of a long, arduous, and deeply impersonal journey. A journey that began in a place of chaos and has passed through the cold, bright light of forensic science. To understand the work that is about to unfold, we must first trace this path, because at each stage, the deceased is seen through a different lens, serving a different purpose, until they finally arrive here, in a place of care. The journey begins at the crime scene. Here, the individual is, first and foremost, a piece of evidence. They are the silent, central fact in a brutal equation that law enforcement must solve. They are photographed, documented, and examined not for their own sake, but for the clues their body might yield about their final moments and their assailant. This is a necessary and vital process for the pursuit of justice, but it is also the first step in a process of depersonalization. The person, with their history, their loves, and their fears, is temporarily eclipsed by their status as a homicide victim, a critical component in a criminal investigation. Their body is a text to be read for answers. Once the on-site investigation is complete, the journey continues to the office of the medical examiner or coroner. This second stage is a world of science, of sterile surfaces, bright lights, and meticulous procedure. In the morgue, the deceased is a subject of scientific inquiry. The goal here is to answer, with absolute certainty, the fundamental questions of forensic pathology. Who was this person? When did they die? What was the precise medical cause of their death? What was the manner of death? Homicide, suicide, accident? To answer these questions, an autopsy is almost always performed. This is another necessary and often invasive procedure. The pathologist makes careful incisions, examines organs, takes tissue and fluid samples for toxicology, and documents every wound, every bruise, every internal injury with clinical precision. This process, while essential for the legal record, can present significant challenges for the restorative artist who will later receive the body. The Y-shaped incision from the shoulders to the pubic bone, the removal of the calvarium or skull cap to examine the brain, these are the unavoidable artifacts of a thorough investigation. The medical examiner's work is a search for truth, but it leaves its own map of trauma that must be addressed. And so, when they finally arrive at the funeral home, they are not a blank canvas. They have been on a journey through systems that, by necessity, treated them as an object of study. But the moment they cross the threshold into the preparation room, their role changes profoundly and for the final time. They are no longer evidence. They are no longer a scientific subject. Here they are a person again. A son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a friend. They are someone who was loved and someone who is now deeply missed. The professional who receives them is the first person on this entire journey, whose primary duty is not to the state, not to the law, but to the deceased themselves and to the family that mourns them. This transition is perhaps the most significant in the entire post-mortem process. It marks the shift from a public legal matter to a private sacred one. Their arrival is not just a physical one. It is accompanied by a story written in the precise and dispassionate language of forensic science. A folder of documents is the key to this story. It typically contains a death certificate, release forms from the coroner, and, most importantly, the coroner's report. This document is the restorative artist's blueprint. To an untrained eye, it might read as a cold and gruesome catalog of injuries, but to the trained professional, it is a vital roadmap. It details the location and nature of every traumatic injury: gunshot wounds, lacerations, fractures. It notes the placement of every suture made by the pathologist during the autopsy. It might describe the condition of the vascular system, which is crucial information for the embalming process that must come first. The artist reads this report not for its horror, but for its information. Where is the circulation likely to be compromised? Which areas will require the most extensive surface work? What underlying structures like bone need to be rebuilt before any soft tissue work can even begin? This clinical data is meticulously absorbed and translated into a plan for compassionate action. It allows the artist to anticipate challenges and to strategize the most effective and gentle approach. Then comes the moment of the initial assessment. This is a quiet, solitary, and deeply focused ritual. The deceased is transferred to the preparation table, and the sheet that has shrouded them is gently drawn back. There is no gasp of horror. There is no flinching. Instead, there is a profound professional stillness. The restorative artist's first look is not an emotional one, at least not in the way we might expect. It is a practiced, methodical, and dispassionate observation. Think of a master art restorer examining a priceless painting that has been torn and stained. They do not see only the damage, they see the original masterpiece beneath it. They assess the integrity of the canvas, the extent of the discoloration, the fragility of the paint. Their mind is already working, formulating a plan, envisioning the delicate process of cleaning, mending, and inpainting that will bring the image back to life. So it is for the thanatologist. Their eyes scan methodically, taking in the full picture. They are assessing tissue condition. Is there swelling, discoloration, dehydration? They are gently palpating the facial bones, feeling for fractures and depressions that the coroner's report described. They are noting the placement of the pathologist's sutures, planning how they will be hidden beneath layers of wax and cosmetic. This initial assessment is a silent dialogue between the artist's knowledge and the physical reality before them. It is a moment of deep analysis, where the full scope of the task becomes clear. This professional dispassion is not a lack of caring, it is the very opposite. It is a necessary and disciplined form of empathy. It is what allows the artist to move past the initial shock of the trauma and focus entirely on the solution. To become overwhelmed by emotion at this stage would be a disservice to the family who is placing their trust and their final memory in these skilled hands. The artist must be a calm center, a clear-thinking problem solver who can see the path back to a peaceful and recognizable appearance. In this first quiet hour of their arrival, the deceased is finally in a space of pure potential. The legal questions have been answered, the scientific data has been gathered, the noise has faded. Now the singular focus is on restoration. The initial assessment concludes with a plan of action, a mental checklist of the steps to be taken, from the foundational work of embalming to the delicate final touches of a cosmetic brush. The journey through the impersonal systems of justice and science is over. Here, in the care of a quiet craftsman, a different kind of journey is about to begin. A journey back from a violent death to a final, gentle, and loving memory of a life. The tools are ready, the knowledge is in place, and the silent, compassionate work is about to start. Who is the person who chooses this work? What kind of individual walks willingly into the quiet room we have described, a space defined by the aftermath of violence, and sees not a place of horror, but a place of service? This is not a career one stumbles into by accident. It is, for those who practice it with dedication, a profound calling. The restorative artist is a unique and rare professional, a composite of 3 distinct and demanding roles, each requiring a different part of the mind, the hand, and the heart. They must be all at once part surgeon, part sculptor, and part silent grief counselor. First, consider the surgeon. The restorative artist must possess a deep and practical understanding of human anatomy. They must know the precise landscape that lies beneath the skin, the graceful curvature of the zygomatic arch, or cheekbone, the delicate orbital bones that frame the eyes, the complex musculature around the mouth that dictates expression. When trauma has disrupted this landscape, they cannot simply cover the damage. They must understand the underlying structure to rebuild it with integrity. Like a surgeon, they work with sutures, scalpels, and forceps, but their goal is not to restore function, it is to restore form. They meticulously align torn tissues, set fractured bones with hidden armatures, and employs sophisticated techniques to manage swelling and discoloration. This aspect of the work is a science. It is governed by the unyielding rules of biology and physics. It requires a steady hand, an analytical mind, and a clinical detachment that allows for absolute precision. There is no room for error when rebuilding the very features that a family recognizes as their own. But this surgical precision, on its own, would be insufficient. It could create a technically perfect but lifeless repair. This is why the artist must also be a sculptor. Once the foundational anatomical work is complete, the science of repair must give way to the art of recreation. This is where waxes, clays, and pigments come into play. The artist is no longer just mending, they are sculpting. Their medium is not marble or bronze, but a fragile combination of human tissue and restorative material. Their ultimate reference is not a textbook diagram, but a photograph of the person in life. They study the way light fell on the planes of their face, the unique and subtle asymmetry that made their smile their own, the fine network of lines around their eyes that spoke of a life filled with laughter. They are working to capture not just a likeness, but an essence. This requires a profound artistic sensibility, an eye for color, texture, shape, and shadow. With a delicate touch, they can recreate the subtle texture of skin, the soft fullness of a lip, the gentle arch of an eyebrow. This is portraiture in its most challenging and meaningful form. It is the sculptor's touch that breathes warmth and personality back into the clinical precision of the surgeon's repair. And finally, woven through every decision, every suture, every touch of the brush, is the role of the grief counselor. This is the most silent and yet the most important of the three roles. The restorative artist rarely meets the family whose lives have been shattered. They work behind a closed door, a quiet, unseen presence. And yet, the family is always in the room with them. Every action is taken with the family's experience in mind. The artist is constantly asking themselves, what will this look like to a grieving spouse? Will this feel right to a child saying their last goodbye? Can I soften this just enough to allow a mother to hold her son's hand one final time without being overwhelmed by the evidence of his death? This is a profound and active form of empathy. It is the why that fuels the how. It transforms a technical procedure into a compassionate act. The artist is, in a very real sense, the family's advocate, standing in for them in this sacred space and preparing a final image of their loved one that is intended to bring comfort, to facilitate closure, and to provide a lasting memory of peace. This silent counseling role is the moral and emotional core of the entire endeavor. To embody these three roles, surgeon, sculptor, and counselor, requires a rare and resilient psychological fortitude. How does one confront the results of humanity's worst impulses on a daily basis and not become consumed by despair or cynicism? The emotional armor required is not one of cold indifference, but of disciplined compassion. It is the ability to look directly at a devastating wound and see not the act of violence that created it, but the work of healing that is needed. It involves a high degree of compartmentalization, the mental practice of being fully present, empathetic, and focused while in the preparation room, and then being able to leave the weight of that work behind when returning home to one's own family. This is a skill honed over years of practice, and it is not without its cost. The burden of witness is heavy. and the professionals who do this work often rely on strong support networks and a deep sense of purpose to sustain them. This leads us to the guiding philosophy that makes such a demanding profession possible and indeed meaningful. It is a simple but powerful commitment to choose dignity over despair. A violent death is the ultimate act of indignity. It robs a person of their life, their future, and often their very identity, replacing it with the stark label of victim. The work of the restorative artist is a quiet, powerful act of defiance against this. It is a refusal to let the violence have the final word. Every step of the restoration process is an affirmation of the deceased's intrinsic worth and humanity. By mending the broken body, the artist is helping to restore a narrative of a life lived, not just a life lost. They are clearing away the brutal static of the final moments so that the clearer signal of the person's true identity can be perceived one last time. This philosophy is what transforms a grim task into a sacred trust. It is the belief that providing a family with a final, peaceful image of their loved one is not an act of deception, but an act of profound kindness. It is a final gift that allows memory, not trauma, to become the foundation upon which a family must learn to rebuild their world. It is a testament to the idea that even in the face of the greatest despair, the human impulse to care, to mend, and to honor can and must prevail. Before the first touch of restorative wax, before the first delicate stroke of a cosmetic brush, a crucial and foundational process must take place. This is the science that makes the art possible. It is called embalming, a word that for many is shrouded in mystery or misconception. But in the context of restorative art, especially in cases of trauma, it is best understood as the first and most critical act of stabilization. Its purpose is not to create a false impression of life, but to achieve the opposite, to respectfully and effectively halt the natural, inevitable process of decomposition. It provides sanitation for the safety of the professionals and the family, and most importantly, it creates a firm, dry, and preserved canvas upon which the restorative artist can begin their delicate work. In a standard non-traumatic death, the process of arterial embalming is relatively straightforward, relying on the body's own incredible circulatory network. The vascular system, that intricate superhighway of arteries, veins, and capillaries reaching every part of the body, is used as a delivery system. A small incision is made, typically near the clavicle, to access the carotid artery, and a specialized preservative fluid is gently introduced into this system. As the fluid is pumped in, it pushes the blood out through a corresponding vein, and in doing so, it perfuses every tissue, from the major organs to the tips of the fingers and toes. Think of it as a closed-loop system, a network of rivers and streams designed by nature to carry life-giving blood, which can be repurposed one final time to carry a life-preserving fluid. When this system is intact, the embalmer can achieve complete and even distribution of the fluid, resulting in uniform preservation. But in cases of homicide, this highway is rarely intact. The very violence that ended the life has almost certainly inflicted catastrophic damage on this delicate network. A gunshot wound, for example, does not create a neat hole. It creates a chaotic path of destruction, shredding vessels and tissues. Severe blunt force trauma can crush and rupture arteries internally. In these instances, the closed-loop system is broken, often in multiple places. Attempting a standard arterial injection would be like trying to fill a bucket that is riddled with holes. The fluid would simply escape from the sites of trauma, failing to reach the areas it needs to preserve and causing massive swelling in the process. This is where the embalmer's skill transforms from that of a technician to that of a brilliant and adaptive problem solver. They are now working under duress, navigating a system that is fundamentally compromised. The first major challenge is establishing distribution. When the main highway is closed, you have to find the local roads. This is achieved through a technique known as sectional or multi-point injection. Instead of using a single injection point, the embalmer must identify which areas are not receiving fluid and then raise other arteries to inject those regions separately. They might inject the right leg from the femoral artery and then the left arm from the brachial artery, and so on. In cases of severe facial trauma, a specialized restricted cervical injection is often used, where the arteries leading to the head are injected separately and under very low pressure to prevent any distortion of the delicate facial tissues that are awaiting reconstruction. For smaller areas that even this approach cannot reach, the embalmer will use a hypodermic needle to deliver fluid directly into the tissue. This is a painstaking, meticulous process, requiring a deep knowledge of anatomy and a patient, methodical approach. It is no longer a simple delivery. It is a strategic and localized campaign of preservation. The second challenge is the condition of the tissues themselves. Trauma doesn't just damage the vascular system, it damages the cells. This can lead to rapid discoloration, swelling from edema, or dehydration. The embalming fluid itself is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It is a complex chemical cocktail that must be customized for each individual case. It's like a pharmacist compounding a specific prescription. The base is typically formaldehyde, the primary preservative, mixed with water. But to this, the embalmer adds a range of modifying agents. If there is severe dehydration, they will add humectants, chemicals that help the tissues retain moisture and stay soft and pliable. If there is significant swelling, they will use a more astringent, higher index fluid to help draw moisture out. They will add dyes to act as tracers, allowing them to see which areas are receiving fluid and to restore a warm, natural undertone to the skin from within. This chemical artistry is crucial. The wrong fluid mixture could exacerbate the existing damage, making the restorative artist's job much harder or even impossible. Finally, the embalmer must contend with the medico-legal requirements, specifically the aftermath of the autopsy. As we discussed, an autopsy is an invasive but necessary procedure. It involves a large Y-shaped incision on the torso and the removal of the skull cap. This means that the central pump and the main conduits of the circulatory system have been completely disrupted. The organs, which are treated and preserved separately in what is known as cavity treatment, are placed back into the body in a special bag. The embalmer must therefore suture this long incision, making it as neat and leak-proof as possible. They must also carefully reset the skull cap, often using wires or strong sutures, and then meticulously suture the scalp along the original incision line, hiding it within the hair. This work is foundational. A poorly sutured autopsy incision can create leaks that undermine the entire preservation and restoration process. Every one of these challenges requires a calm, focused, and scientific mind. But it is crucial to understand that this highly technical process is not the end goal. It is the means to an end. The primary goal of embalming under duress is to create a stable foundation. Without thorough preservation, the restorative work would be built on shifting sands. The natural processes of change would continue, and any beautiful reconstruction would be undone from within. A successful embalming provides the artist with a firm, dry, and sanitary medium to work with. Tissues become firm and easier to suture. Features that were swollen or distorted can be gently reduced and set. The entire body becomes a stable platform for the delicate work of rebuilding and sculpting that is to come. It is analogous to a master archivist meticulously preserving a fragile, torn manuscript before a calligrapher attempts to restore the missing text. The preservation must come first, or the art that follows will be lost. This scientific procedure, performed in quiet solitude, is the first and perhaps greatest act of restoring dignity. It is a methodical and compassionate intervention that pauses the relentless advance of decay and transforms the chaotic aftermath of violence into a state of peaceful, stable repose. It clears the way for the next stage of the journey, setting the stage for the sculptor's hand and the painter's eye. It is the unseen, unsung, but absolutely essential foundation upon which a final, comforting memory for a grieving family will be carefully and lovingly built. Once the foundational science of embalming has rendered the body stable and preserved, the restorative artist can turn their full attention to the specific and often devastating injuries that violence has left behind. This next stage is a transition from the systemic work of preservation to the highly localized and intricate work of mending. It requires the dispassionate eye of a pathologist, capable of clinically assessing the nature of a wound, combined with the gentle, constructive hand of a surgeon. The goal here is not just to close what is open or hide what is broken, but to understand the underlying anatomical disruption in order to create a repair that is both structurally sound and cosmetically seamless. Let's consider with clinical respect some of the specific challenges the artist might face. A gunshot wound, for instance, is rarely the neat, small hole often depicted in fiction. The reality is far more complex. There is the entry wound, which may be small and relatively clean. But then there is the path of the projectile through the body, a chaotic tunnel of destruction that can shatter bone and shred soft tissue. And most challenging of all, there is often an exit wound, which is typically much larger and more destructive than the entry wound, as the bullet tumbles and transfers its kinetic energy to the surrounding tissues. Similarly, blunt force trauma from a fall, an assault, or a vehicle collision presents its own unique set of problems. It may not break the skin at all, but instead cause massive internal hemorrhaging, leading to severe swelling and discoloration. It can also result in compound fractures, where shattered bone fragments tear through the skin, creating jagged, irregular lacerations. Sharp force injuries, such as those from a knife, are different again, creating clean incisions, but potentially severing muscles and tendons in a way that can distort a person's natural expression. The first step in addressing any of these injuries is always the same: a meticulous and gentle process of cleaning and disinfection. The wounds must be cleared of any foreign debris, dried and treated with a cauterizing agent. This is not just for sanitation, it is a critical step for the restoration itself. A dry, firm wound margin is essential for holding sutures and for creating a stable base for wax or other fillers. Any moisture or instability in the wound bed would compromise the entire reconstruction. This cleaning process is done with the utmost care, ensuring that no further damage is done to the delicate surrounding tissues. It is a slow, methodical preparation of the canvas. Once the area is prepared, the work of stabilization and suturing can begin. This is where a deep understanding of anatomy is paramount. The artist isn't just pulling the edges of a wound together. They are thinking in 3 dimensions, working from the inside out. If there are bone fractures, especially in the face, these must be addressed first. Small, shattered pieces of bone may need to be carefully removed. Larger fragments must be aligned and secured, sometimes using fine wires, strong sutures, or even a hidden plaster or resin backing to create a solid armature. Think of a sculptor building the wire frame for a clay bust. Without a solid underlying structure, the surface will have no integrity. The artist is rebuilding this essential framework, ensuring that the natural contours of the face, the projection of the chin, the curve of the cheek, the bridge of the nose, are correctly re-established. Only after the deep structural work is complete can the artist begin to work on the soft tissues. The goal of suturing here is different from that in a living patient. A surgeon suturing a living person is primarily concerned with promoting healing and minimizing scarring. The restorative artist's primary concern is creating a perfectly aligned, non-distorted, and easily concealable closure. They often use what is known as an intradermal or subcutaneous suture. This is a beautiful and intricate technique where the needle and thread pass through the layer just beneath the skin's surface, zigzagging back and forth between the wound margins. When the thread is pulled tight, it draws the edges of the skin together perfectly, like a zipper, without any visible stitches on the surface. This creates a clean, flat seam that can later be covered with a thin layer of wax and cosmetics, making it virtually invisible. For larger areas of missing tissue, where the edges cannot be brought together, the artist will suture a backing material, like a piece of plastic or mesh, deep within the wound. This creates a stable web, a lattice upon which wax and other restorative materials can be securely anchored. Throughout this entire process, the artist must be acutely aware of the underlying musculature. The human face is a symphony of tiny muscles that create expression. An improperly placed suture can pull on one of these muscles, creating an unnatural pucker, a grimace, or a look of surprise. The artist must work with the natural grain of the muscles, what are known as the lines of tension in the skin, to ensure that the final result is one of peaceful, natural repose. They are constantly referencing photographs of the person smiling, talking, and at rest to understand the unique topography of their face and to ensure that their repair honors the person's natural appearance. This is the subtle difference between a mere repair and a true restoration. It is the difference between simply closing the wound and ensuring that the closure does not inadvertently create an expression of tension or pain. This clinical and highly technical phase of the work is a bridge. It is the crucial transition from the foundational science of embalming to the fine art of cosmetic finishing. Each step, the assessment of the trauma, the meticulous cleaning, the deep structural repair of bone, and the delicate suturing of soft tissue, is a deliberate and necessary action. It is a process of methodically reversing the chaos of violence. It is about taking what is broken, fragmented, and torn, and piece by painstaking piece making it whole again. It is a quiet, focused, and profoundly respectful engagement with the physical reality of a tragedy. And every successful suture, every stable repair, brings the artist one step closer to their ultimate goal: to create a peaceful and recognizable image that will allow a family to see past the wounds of a violent death and reconnect one last time with the face of the person they love. With the deep anatomical repairs complete and the canvas stabilized, the restorative artist now transitions from surgeon to sculptor. The tools change. The heavy work of suturing gives way to the delicate, nuanced craft of surface reconstruction. This is where the artist's studio truly comes to life, filled with specialized instruments and materials that are a unique blend of scientific chemistry, fine art supplies, and bespoke mortuary technology. To understand the magic that is about to happen, we must first look at the tools of this gentle reconstruction. At the heart of the restorative artist's toolkit is wax. But this is not the simple candle wax one might imagine. It is a highly specialized product, coming in a wide range of densities, opacities, and colors. There are firm waxes used for rebuilding large foundational shapes like the bridge of a nose or the curve of a chin. These provide structural integrity and can be carved and shaped, much like a sculptor's clay. Then there are medium waxes, which are softer and more pliable, used for filling in depressions and creating the smoother contours of the face. And finally, there are the incredibly soft, almost creamy surface waxes known as lip waxes or pore fillers. These are applied in paper-thin layers to completely conceal the finest sutures, to smooth the transition between real skin and a prosthetic piece, and to recreate the subtle, imperfect texture of natural skin. These waxes are the artist's clay, the medium through which they will sculpt form back into existence. They can be warmed to become more malleable and are applied with a variety of small, delicate spatulas and modeling tools, many of which would look more at home in a potter's studio than a funeral home. Alongside the waxes are specialized clays and fillers. For very large areas where tissue is missing, a deep filler or modeling clay might be used to build up the basic shape before the final wax layers are applied. Modern technology has also introduced prosthetic devices and materials. If an ear or the tip of a nose is missing, a restorative artist might use a mold taken from a photograph to cast a replacement from silicone or a similar lifelike material. These prosthetics are then painstakingly blended into the surrounding tissue, their edges feathered away with soft waxes until the seam is imperceptible. The artist's toolbox also contains a vast array of specialized sutures and adhesives. There are fine hair-like threads for the most delicate work, and powerful cyanoacrylate adhesives, a type of superglue that can be used to invisibly bond tissues or secure a prosthetic. Each tool is chosen for a specific purpose, a specific challenge, a specific step in the journey of reconstruction. But perhaps the most important tool in the entire room is not a physical object, but an image, a photograph of the person in life, or ideally, several photographs. These images are the ultimate blueprint, the North Star for the entire restorative process. The artist will study these photos with an intensity that borders on meditation. They are not just looking at the person's features, they are learning them. They study the unique arch of an eyebrow, the exact shape of the philtrum, that small groove above the upper lip, the way a particular smile created a specific set of creases around the eyes and mouth. They observe the person's natural hair parting, the subtle asymmetries that exist in every human face, the way their skin folded or creased when they were at rest. This is not about creating a generic doll-like perfection. It is about capturing a specific, beloved individuality. The photograph is a constant reference, propped up in the artist's line of sight, a silent guide ensuring that every touch of the spatula, every application of wax is moving closer not just to a human face, but to their human face. Once the form has been meticulously rebuilt, the next great artistic challenge begins: the restoration of color and texture. Human skin is not a single uniform color. It is a complex, translucent tapestry of reds, yellows, blues, and browns. It is a living canvas that reflects light and has depth. To replicate this, the restorative artist must be a master of color theory. Their cosmetic palette is far more sophisticated than everyday makeup. It contains a range of opaque, cream-based cosmetics for blocking out deep discolorations like bruises, as well as highly translucent liquid-based pigments that can be layered to create a lifelike depth and luminosity. The artist might use an airbrush, a tool borrowed from the world of fine art and photo retouching, to apply incredibly fine, even layers of color. They can build up a natural skin tone with a subtlety that is impossible to achieve with a brush or sponge alone. They might apply a faint touch of rose to the cheeks, a slightly deeper tone in the natural shadows of the face, and a warm, vascular red to the lips, all of it blended seamlessly. The final illusion of life is created by recreating texture. No skin is perfectly smooth. It is covered in pores, fine lines, and subtle imperfections. A perfectly smooth wax surface would look unnatural and artificial. To combat this, the artist employs a variety of ingenious techniques. They might use a stippling brush, a coarse-pored sponge, or even a piece of damp gauze to gently press a pore-like texture into the soft surface wax before the cosmetics are applied. For older individuals, they will use a fine needle or a razor's edge to delicately etch the natural lines and wrinkles back into the wax, following the map provided by the photographs. This is the final, masterful touch that transforms a repair into a work of art. It is the attention to the tiniest details that convinces the eye and the heart that what it is seeing is real and at peace. Every tool, from the simplest spatula to the most advanced airbrush, every material, from the firmest wax to the most translucent cosmetic, is chosen and used with a single unifying purpose. These are not tools of deception. They are tools of gentle reconstruction. They are the instruments of a quiet and compassionate craft, wielded by an artist whose sole intention is to bridge the gap between a traumatic reality and a cherished memory. In their skilled hands, these waxes, clays, and colors become more than just materials. They become the very medium of comfort, helping to rebuild a familiar face so that a grieving family can begin the impossible work of saying goodbye. To truly understand the fusion of science and art we have been discussing, let us walk through a representative anonymized case study. Let us imagine the arrival of an individual whose life was ended by severe blunt force trauma to one side of their face, a tragedy that resulted in multiple fractures of the cheekbone, the orbit of the eye, and the jaw, along with significant tissue damage. This is a formidable challenge, but for the restorative artist, it is a problem to be solved with a methodical and gentle sequence of steps. The ultimate goal is not just to repair the damage, but to rediscover the person who lies beneath it. The process begins, as always, after the foundational embalming has been completed. The artist's first task is to address the underlying skeletal structure. The photograph of the person in life is propped up, becoming a constant guide. The artist gently palpates the injured side of the face, comparing it to the uninjured side and to the photograph, mentally mapping the depressions and misalignments. The primary challenge is the shattered zygomatic arch, the cheekbone, which is collapsed inward, taking with it the natural, youthful contour of the face. To rebuild this, the artist will not work on the surface. They must work from within. Making a small hidden incision inside the mouth or along the hairline, the artist gains access to the damaged area from behind. Using specialized tools, they carefully manipulate the fractured bone fragments, gently pushing them back into their natural alignment as much as possible. This is delicate work, akin to piecing together a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle made of eggshell. When the bones cannot be perfectly realigned, or when pieces are missing, a filler is required. The artist might inject a mortuary-grade plaster or a fast-setting resin deep into the cavity, carefully sculpting it from the outside as it hardens to precisely match the contour of the uninjured cheek. Another technique is to pack the area with cotton that has been saturated with a hardening agent, building up the foundational shape layer by layer. This is the crucial armature, the invisible framework that will support all the work to come. Without this solid base, any surface restoration would be futile, eventually sinking and revealing the trauma beneath. With the bone structure now stable and correctly contoured, the artist can turn to the soft tissue. The lacerations are meticulously cleaned one final time. Using the fine intradermal suture we discussed earlier, the artist begins the patient work of closing the skin. They start at one end of the tear, passing the needle back and forth in the layer just beneath the surface, slowly and gently drawing the edges together. The thread is pulled with just enough tension to close the gap, but not so much as to cause puckering. The result is a clean, flat seam with no visible stitches, a faint line where once there was a devastating wound. For any smaller areas of tissue that were completely lost, the artist will have already created a stable backing deep within the wound bed, ready to receive the next layer. Now, the transition to sculptor is complete. The artist selects a firm, flesh-colored restorative wax. Warming a small amount in their palm to make it pliable, they begin to apply it over the sutured areas and into any depressions that remain. This is not a slathering motion. It is a precise and delicate application with a small, flexible spatula. The artist applies the wax in thin, successive layers, gradually building up the surface. With each layer, they step back, check their work against the photograph, and feel the contour with their fingertips, comparing it to the uninjured side. They are not just filling a hole, they are sculpting the subtle planes and curves of a human face. They are recreating the gentle swell of the cheek, the soft tissue that covers the jawline, and the delicate area beneath the eye. The most challenging part of this facial reconstruction is often the eye itself. Trauma to the orbit can cause the eye to recede into its socket or become swollen and disfigured. The artist must first ensure the eye is properly set. This might involve placing a small curved device called an eye cap over the closed eye to give it a natural, rounded shape. Then, cotton can be placed behind the eyeball to bring it forward to its correct position. The eyelids are then carefully closed and secured with a tiny drop of adhesive to ensure they remain in a state of peaceful repose. The artist then uses the softest, most delicate waxes to recreate the fine, paper-thin skin of the eyelids, blending them seamlessly into the surrounding area. This is micromanagement of the highest order, where a single millimeter of difference can change an entire expression. The final stage of the sculpting process is the recreation of skin texture. The rebuilt area is currently unnaturally smooth. Using the photograph as a guide, the artist observes the natural skin texture on the rest of the face. They then use a stippling brush to gently press a pore-like pattern into the wax. They might use the edge of a thin spatula to lightly etch in the finest of expression lines or the natural folds of the skin. This step is what truly sells the illusion. It breaks up the light, scatters reflections, and transforms the smooth, waxy patch into something that reads to the human eye as skin. It is the culmination of the sculptural phase, where form has been fully and faithfully restored. Throughout this entire hours-long process, the artist works with a quiet, meditative focus. It is a dialogue between their hands, their tools, the photograph, and the face before them. They are constantly making micro-adjustments, adding a tiny bit of wax here, smoothing an edge there, all in service of a single goal: familiarity. They are not trying to make the person look beautiful in a generic sense. They are striving to make them look like asterisk themselves asterisk again. They are working to erase the evidence of violence so that a family can see the face they have held in their memory for a lifetime. This step-by-step rebuilding of a human face, from the deep foundation of bone to the finest surface texture of the skin, is a testament to what is possible when medical knowledge, artistic talent, and profound compassion converge in a quiet room dedicated to a final, powerful act of human care. With the structural and sculptural work complete, the face of the deceased is once again whole. The wounds have been mended, the contours restored, the texture recreated in wax, but the work is not yet finished. The reconstruction, however masterfully done, is still a patchwork of different materials, of natural skin, of sutures, and of flesh-toned wax. It lacks the unity, the warmth, and the subtle vitality of living color. The final and perhaps most transformative stage is now set to begin: the creation of the final illusion of peace through the artful and meticulous application of cosmetics. This process is a world away from everyday makeup application. The goal is not enhancement or beautification in the conventional sense. The goal is restoration and naturalism. The artist must take a surface of varying textures and opacities and unify it into a seamless, believable whole. The first task is to create a neutral and even base, a blank canvas upon which to paint. This often involves using a specialized opaque cosmetic primer. applied thinly and carefully over the waxed areas and any remaining discolorations, such as bruising that the embalming fluid could not completely bleach. This primer serves two purposes. First, it completely conceals the underlying repairs, preventing any seams or variations in material from showing through. Second, it creates a uniform surface that will accept the subsequent layers of color evenly. Once the canvas is prepared, the true artistry begins. The restorative artist rarely uses a single flat color. Instead, they build up the skin tone in a series of incredibly thin, translucent layers. This is where the airbrush becomes an invaluable tool. Using a mixture of specialized mortuary cosmetics, which are formulated to adhere to both skin and wax, the artist can spray a mist of color so fine that it is almost imperceptible. They will start with a foundational tone matched to the person's natural complexion, as determined from photographs and the uninjured areas of their skin. They apply this in broad, gentle strokes, unifying the entire face and hands. This initial airbrushed layer is the key to creating a seamless transition between the natural skin and the restored areas. It bridges the gap, making the line between what is real and what has been reconstructed completely disappear. But a single tone would look flat and mask-like. The true genius of the cosmetic artist lies in their ability to recreate the natural, subtle variations of color found in all human skin. This is the art of contouring and highlighting, but with a mortuary-specific purpose. Using a slightly darker, warmer shade, the artist will delicately airbrush the natural shadows of the face, the hollows of the cheeks, the temples, the area beneath the jawline. This restores a sense of three-dimensional depth. Then, with a lighter shade, they might touch the high planes of the face, the bridge of the nose, the top of the cheekbones, the center of the forehead, to mimic the way light naturally falls. These are not dramatic theatrical effects. They are incredibly subtle, designed to be perceived almost subconsciously, restoring a sense of shape and structure to the face. Next comes the application of warm, lifelike tones. The artist will add a hint of rose or a soft peach to the cheeks, not as a blush, but as a suggestion of the blood that once warmed the skin. They will add a touch of color to the knuckles and the beds of the fingernails. The lips are given special attention, restored to their natural color with a soft, cream-based cosmetic, carefully ensuring the color does not appear artificial or overly vibrant. The goal is to create an appearance not of sleep, but of deep and peaceful rest. It is the art of suggestion, of whispering color back into a form that has grown pale. Every touch of color is a deliberate step away from the coldness of death and towards the warmth of a final, comforting memory. Beyond the cosmetic application, the artist attends to the small, personal details that complete the picture of the individual. The hair is carefully washed, styled, and dried. This is a profoundly important step. A person's hairstyle is a huge part of their identity. The artist will meticulously follow the photographs to recreate the person's signature parting, the way their hair naturally fell, or the style they were known for. If hair has been lost due to trauma or medical intervention, the artist can use hair pieces or even painstakingly replace individual strands to restore a natural hairline. The eyebrows are carefully groomed and defined. The hands are given a manicure, the nails cleaned and shaped. These may seem like small things, but they are monumental in their impact. They are the details that a family will notice and recognize, the small touches that say, "This is them. This is the person I knew." Finally, there is the dressing of the deceased. The family will have chosen a special outfit, a favorite suit, a beloved dress, a comfortable sweater. The artist dresses the person with the utmost care and dignity, ensuring the clothes fit perfectly and are arranged naturally. A tie is knotted just so, a collar is straightened, a piece of jewelry is placed exactly as it was always worn. These final acts complete the restoration of identity. But perhaps the most subtle and profound technique is the one that has no specific tool, the creation of a peaceful expression. This is not achieved through any single action at the end, but is the culmination of every decision made from the very beginning. It is the result of setting the facial features without tension, of ensuring the jaw is closed naturally, of positioning the eyelids in a soft, resting state. The gentle, layered application of cosmetics, the careful styling of the hair, it all contributes to this final, overarching impression of repose. The artist is not trying to create a smile which would look unnatural. They are aiming for a state of serene neutrality, a face at ease, free from the pain and trauma of their final moments. It is this final, peaceful expression that is the artist's ultimate gift to the family. It is an image of tranquility that can, over time, overwrite the more horrific images that may have haunted their minds. It is the final illusion of peace, crafted with science, artistry, and an ocean of silent compassion. As the final touches of the cosmetic brush settle and the last errant strand of hair is gently put into place, the physical work in the quiet room is complete. The deceased now rests in a state of profound and dignified repose. But to see this incredible transformation as merely a physical or cosmetic achievement is to miss its deepest and most significant purpose. The hours of painstaking work, the mending of bone, the suturing of tissue, the sculpting of wax, and the layering of color have been in service of something far more abstract and infinitely more important. This entire process is a powerful act of reclamation. It is about restoring a person's identity, not just their physical form. Violence, by its very nature, is an act of erasure. It seeks to reduce a person, with all their complexity, history, and love, into a single brutal event. A homicide victim's identity is violently overwritten by the act that ended their life. They cease to be John, the loving father who told terrible jokes and coached Little League, and become John, the man who was murdered. Their life story, a rich and sprawling narrative, is suddenly and cruelly abridged to its final, horrific chapter. The media reports, the legal proceedings, the whispers of the community, they all focus on the death, not the life. This is a second death, a symbolic annihilation of personhood that can be as devastating for the family as the physical loss itself. The work of the restorative artist is a direct and powerful counter-narrative to this act of erasure. It is a quiet, determined refusal to let violence have the last word on a person's identity. By meticulously rebuilding the face that was known and loved, the artist is, in a very real sense, giving the person back their story. They are peeling away the mask of victim to reveal the familiar and cherished face of the individual. Every step of the process is a reclamation, Rebuilding the bone structure is reclaiming their physical foundation. Suturing the wounds is reclaiming the integrity of their form. Restoring the color and texture of their skin is reclaiming their natural appearance. And styling their hair as they always wore it is reclaiming their personal style, their individuality. It is an act of defiance, a statement made in the quiet of the preparation room that this person was more, so much more, than the way they died. The profound psychological importance of this becomes clear when we consider the experience of the grieving family. When a death is sudden and violent, the family is often left with a final mental image that is deeply traumatizing. It might be the image from a news report, a description from law enforcement, or simply the product of their own horrified imagination. This traumatic image can become a relentless intruder in their minds, an endless loop of horror that overshadows all the happy memories they have. It can become a significant barrier to healthy grieving, a source of complicated trauma that can haunt them for years. The ability to have a final viewing, to see their loved one at peace, offers a powerful therapeutic intervention. When a family walks into the viewing room and sees their loved one looking like themselves, looking peaceful, a critical psychological pivot can occur. The new gentle image does not erase the traumatic one, but it competes with it. It offers a different, more powerful final memory to hold on to. It allows the family to pivot from the horror of the person's death back to the beauty of their life. Seeing their father in his favorite suit, looking as though he is simply sleeping, allows his children to reconnect with the memory of the living man, not the abstract victim. Seeing a spouse free from the visible signs of their struggle allows the surviving partner to begin the process of remembering their shared life of love, not just the violent end. This final memory picture becomes a sanctuary, a place of peace their minds can return to when the trauma threatens to overwhelm them. It is a gift of closure, a visual confirmation that the struggle is over and their loved one is finally at rest. In this context, the thanatologist, the restorative artist, assumes a role far greater than that of a mere technician. They become the final guardian of a person's physical legacy. They are the last person to stand between the chaos of a violent death and the memory a family will carry for the rest of their lives. This is a sacred and heavy responsibility. The artist is entrusted with the most intimate and recognizable part of a person, their face, and tasked with presenting it in a way that honors their life and brings comfort to their family. They are the silent keeper of secrets, the one who sees the full extent of the trauma, but chooses to mediate that reality for the sake of the living. They absorb the horror so that the family does not have to. This work, therefore, is an act of deep social and familial healing. It helps to mend the tear in the fabric of a family that violence creates. By providing a focal point for a final loving goodbye, it allows the rituals of mourning to proceed in a healthy way. It enables eulogies to be spoken to a familiar face, not an empty casket. It allows for a final touch, a whispered secret, a last caress of a hand. These small physical acts of farewell are incredibly important for human beings in processing loss. They make the abstract reality of death concrete and manageable. The restorative artist, by making this final connection possible, facilitates this essential human need. They are not just restoring flesh and bone. They are helping to restore a family's ability to begin the long and arduous process of healing, armed with a final memory of dignity and peace, rather than one of violence and despair. It is a profound service, a final quiet act of love performed on behalf of a family that is too consumed by grief to perform it for themselves. To stand daily at the confluence of profound grief, brutal violence, and the most delicate of human arts is to bear an extraordinary psychological weight. The quiet of the preparation room, while a sanctuary for the deceased, can become a crucible for the professional who works within it. The work of a restorative artist is not just technically demanding. It is emotionally and spiritually taxing in ways that few other professions can claim. To do this work is to be a constant witness to the worst of human nature, and that witnessing over time exacts a heavy toll. The emotional burden comes from multiple overlapping sources. First, there is the direct exposure to the physical aftermath of violence. While the artist develops a professional detachment to perform their tasks, they are still human. The initial sight of a body ravaged by trauma is a visceral experience. The mind may be trained to see it as a clinical problem, but the nervous system still registers the shock. This repeated exposure to graphic reality can lead to a phenomenon known as vicarious trauma, where the professional begins to internalize the trauma of others, experiencing symptoms similar to post-traumatic stress disorder. Intrusive thoughts, heightened anxiety, and a sense of a foreshortened future, even though the trauma did not happen to them directly. Then there is the burden of empathy, the very quality that makes a restorative artist great. Their ability to connect with the deceased as a person and to hold the family's grief in their mind is also what makes them vulnerable. They are not just mending tissue, they are engaging with a tragic story. They read the coroner's report. They see the photographs of the person in life. They often learn details about the family from the funeral director. They piece together a narrative of a life cut short, and they feel the profound injustice of it. This constant immersion in the sorrow of others can lead to compassion, fatigue, a state of emotional and physical exhaustion, where the professional's ability to feel empathy begins to erode, not from a lack of caring, but from being utterly overwhelmed by it. It is the emotional equivalent of a well-running dry. Because of this immense pressure, rates of burnout in the death care industry, especially among those who specialize in trauma cases, are tragically high. Burnout manifests as a triad of symptoms: overwhelming exhaustion, feelings of cynicism and detachment from the job, and a sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. The artist who once found deep meaning in their work may begin to feel numb, to see their sacred task as just a job, and to doubt whether their efforts make any real difference. This is a dangerous and painful state, and it is a constant risk for those on the front lines of grief. So how do they cope? How do these dedicated professionals continue to do this vital work without being consumed by it? They develop a sophisticated and highly personal set of psychological coping mechanisms. The most important of these is a finely tuned professional detachment. This is not coldness or a lack of care. It is a conscious and disciplined mental boundary. It is the ability to be fully present and empathetic while working, but to then place that emotional experience in a metaphorical container when the work is done. One artist described it as having a work heart and a home heart, and being meticulous about not letting the sorrow from one bleed into the joy of the other. This often involves creating rituals to mark the transition between work and home, changing clothes, listening to a specific piece of music, or engaging in a physical activity like a walk or a run to literally shake off the weight of the day. Compartmentalization is another key survival tool. This is the mental act of separating the clinical, problem-solving aspects of the job from the emotional, human aspects. When analyzing a wound, the artist is in surgeon mode, focused on angles, sutures, and tissue integrity. When applying the final touches of cosmetics, guided by a photograph, they may allow themselves to enter counselor mode, thinking more about the family and the person's life story. This ability to shift cognitive frames allows them to manage the overwhelming emotional input by breaking it down into more manageable, task-oriented parts. It protects their psyche from being flooded by the totality of the tragedy all at once. Peer support is also absolutely vital. The experience of a restorative artist is unique. They cannot easily share the details of their day with a spouse or a friend without causing them distress. This is why connections with other death care professionals are so crucial. Only another embalmer or restorative artist can truly understand the specific challenges, the dark humor that sometimes serves as a release valve, and the profound sense of accomplishment that comes from a successful restoration. Professional associations, online forums, and informal networks provide a safe and understanding space to vent frustrations, share techniques, and most importantly, remind each other that they are not alone in the weight they carry. Ultimately, the most powerful buffer against burnout, vicarious trauma, and compassion fatigue is a deep and abiding sense of meaning and purpose. The professionals who thrive in this field are the ones who can hold on to the why. They are driven by the profound belief that their work is a crucial service, a final act of human kindness. They find their reward not in praise or recognition, which they rarely receive, as their work is meant to be invisible, but in the knowledge that they have eased the burden of a grieving family. They are motivated by the philosophy we discussed earlier, the commitment to dignity over despair. This sense of purpose acts as a psychological anchor in a sea of sorrow. It reframes the daily exposure to horror as an opportunity to create healing. It transforms the weight of witnessing from a crushing burden into a sacred responsibility. It is the quiet, internal fire that allows them to walk back into the preparation room day after day and continue their gentle, essential work of mending what has been broken. The highly specialized craft of restorative art as we know it today did not emerge from a vacuum. It is the culmination of a long and fascinating historical journey, a story that intertwines humanity's evolving relationship with death, the brutal necessities of war, and the slow, steady advancement of science and art. To appreciate the modern practitioner's skill is to understand the centuries of innovation and shifting philosophies that built their foundation. The impulse to care for the dead, to present them in a dignified manner, is as ancient as human culture itself. Our story begins not with science, but with ritual. Ancient civilizations across the globe developed sophisticated methods of preserving the body, though their primary motivations were religious and spiritual, not aesthetic. The ancient Egyptians are the most famous example, with their complex process of mummification. Their goal was not to create a lifelike appearance for mourners, but to preserve the physical form for the soul's journey into the afterlife. They removed the organs, dried the body with natron salts, and wrapped it in linen bandages. While this was a form of preservation, its intent was theological. Similarly, cultures like the Chinchorro people of ancient Chile, who were creating mummies thousands of years before the Egyptians, used techniques of evisceration and packing the body with clays and reeds to maintain its form, likely as a way to keep the deceased present and integrated within the community of the living. These early practices demonstrate a deep-seated human need to defy, or at least mediate, the physical reality of decay. For many centuries that followed, especially in the Western world, the care of the dead was a simple and local affair. The body was typically washed and dressed by the family, often the women of the household, and a wake was held in the home. Preservation was not a major concern, as burial usually occurred within a day or two. There was no professional class of undertakers as we would recognize them. The focus was on spiritual preparation and communal mourning, not on the physical appearance of the deceased. The idea of altering the post-mortem appearance was largely foreign. The first major catalyst for change was the gruesome crucible of war. The American Civil War in the 1860s was a turning point. For the first time, vast numbers of soldiers were dying far from home. The development of the railroad system meant it was now possible to transport the bodies of fallen soldiers back to their families for a proper burial. But this created a new and urgent problem: how to preserve a body for a journey that could take days or even weeks. This necessity gave birth to the modern practice of arterial embalming in the United States. Surgeons and chemists, many of whom had honed their anatomical skills on the battlefield, began experimenting with arsenic and zinc-based chemical solutions. They would travel with the armies, offering their embalming surgeon services to officers and soldiers who could afford it. The public's first widespread exposure to this new science was the funeral of President Abraham Lincoln. His body traveled by train for nearly 3 weeks, from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois, with viewings held in major cities along the way. The remarkable state of preservation was a national marvel, and it did more than anything to legitimize and popularize the practice of embalming. However, at this stage, the primary goal was still just that: preservation. The focus was on preventing decomposition, not on restoring a lifelike appearance. The techniques were often crude, and the chemical fluids harsh, sometimes leaving the skin gray and leathery. But a fundamental shift had occurred. Death care was beginning to move out of the home and into the hands of a new professional class. The undertaker was evolving into the funeral director, and with this new professionalism came a growing interest in improving the cosmetic aspects of their work. The world wars of the 20th century provided the next grim but powerful impetus for innovation. The sheer scale of traumatic injuries and disfigurement seen in trench warfare and modern combat presented a challenge that simple preservation could not address. Funeral directors, now dealing with the return of soldiers with devastating injuries, began to develop the foundational techniques of what would become restorative art. They started experimenting with materials like plaster of Paris and modeling clay to rebuild facial structures. A new industry began to emerge, developing specialized mortuary waxes and cosmetics designed to work on embalmed tissue. Pioneers in the field, often with backgrounds in art or sculpture, began writing textbooks and teaching their techniques, formalizing the craft. They developed methods for masking discolorations, for recreating features, and for creating a more peaceful and natural appearance. The philosophical shift was just as important as the technological one. The focus began to move from merely preserving the body to a new, more psychological goal, creating a comforting final memory picture. This change was championed by figures who argued that a peaceful final viewing was not a morbid spectacle, but a vital part of the grieving process. It helped families to accept the reality of the death while providing a final image of their loved one that was not associated with pain or suffering. This new philosophy positioned the funeral director not just as a tradesman, but as a caregiver, a professional whose work had a profound therapeutic value. It was this shift that elevated restorative work from a simple repair job to a true art form, demanding not just technical skill, but also empathy, artistic sensibility, and a deep understanding of the psychology of grief. Today, the craft continues to evolve. New materials such as silicones and advanced polymers offer even more lifelike options for prosthetics. Digital technology allows for the 3D printing of cranial sections or facial bones to serve as a perfect armature for reconstruction. Airbrushing techniques, borrowed from Hollywood special effects, allow for a subtlety of cosmetic application that was previously unimaginable. Yet, despite all this technological advancement, the core of the craft remains unchanged. It is still the work of one individual, in a quiet room, using their hands, their heart, and their unique blend of scientific knowledge and artistic skill to serve a grieving family. A tradition that has slowly and purposefully evolved from the ancient past to meet the needs of the modern world. The quiet, solitary work of the restorative artist, however masterful, is only one half of a delicate and crucial equation. The other half takes place not in the preparation room, but in a softly lit arrangement office, in a conversation between the funeral director and the grieving family. This is where the unseen work of science and art must be translated into the language of human compassion and realistic expectations. The difficult conversation about the nature of the deceased's injuries and the possibilities for a final viewing is one of the most challenging and important responsibilities a funeral director has. When a family is reeling from the shock and trauma of a violent death, their first instinct is often a powerful, desperate need to see their loved one. This desire is born from a place of love and disbelief. They need a final, tangible connection to make the unthinkable reality of the loss feel real. They want to see for themselves, to say their goodbyes. However, in cases of severe trauma, granting this request without careful preparation and honest counsel can cause more harm than good. An unprepared viewing of a loved one who has been significantly altered by violence can be a profoundly traumatic experience, one that replaces cherished memories with images of horror. The funeral director's role, therefore, is that of a gentle and honest guide. They must first listen. They must create a safe space for the family to express their fears, their hopes, and their questions. They must validate the powerful need to see their loved one, while also gently introducing the complexities of the situation. This requires immense emotional intelligence, the ability to read nonverbal cues, and a deep well of patience and empathy. They cannot be blunt or clinical, which would be cruel, but they also cannot be evasive or overly optimistic, which would be a disservice. They must walk a fine line between protecting the family from further trauma and honoring their right to make informed decisions. The first step in this conversation is managing expectations. The funeral director, having consulted with the restorative artist, has a clear understanding of what can realistically be achieved. They must communicate this to the family in the gentlest possible terms. They might say something like, "There was significant trauma to his face, but we have a very skilled specialist who will be working to restore his natural appearance. Our goal is to present him in a way that is peaceful and recognizable." They will often use photographs of the person in life, provided by the family, as a focal point for the conversation. This shifts the focus from the injuries to the personhood. They can point to a smiling photo and say, "This is who we are working toward. This is the memory we want to help you preserve." They will explain the process in broad, non-graphic terms, emphasizing the care and artistry involved. They might mention the use of specialized waxes and cosmetics, or techniques similar to what a sculptor would use. This language demystifies the process without being frightening, framing it as a craft of healing and care, rather than a macabre procedure. It helps the family understand that this is not a simple matter of tidying up, but a dedicated and professional effort to honor their loved one. They will never make promises they cannot keep. If a perfect restoration is not possible, they will be honest about it. They might say, "We believe we can achieve a very peaceful and comforting presentation, but some of the injuries may still be subtly apparent. We will do everything in our power to minimize this." This conversation is also about guiding the family through their options. An open casket viewing is not an all-or-nothing proposition. The funeral director can present a range of possibilities that can be tailored to the specific circumstances and the family's emotional needs. For example, if the trauma is extensive but a positive identification is important for the family's sense of closure, they might suggest a private family identification before any cosmetic work is completed. This is a brief, carefully managed viewing for one or two designated family members, allowing them to confirm the reality of the death. It is a stark and difficult moment, but for some, it is a necessary step. Alternatively, if a full open casket viewing for the public might be too overwhelming, they can suggest a private viewing for immediate family only. This allows for a final, intimate goodbye in a controlled and supportive environment. In other cases, where facial trauma is very severe but the hands are untouched, they might suggest a partial viewing where the casket is closed but a small panel allows for the viewing and touching of the hands. For many people, holding a loved one's hand one last time is an incredibly powerful and comforting act, a final point of physical connection. The funeral director's role is to present these options not as lesser choices, but as equally valid and dignified ways of saying goodbye, empowering the family to choose the path that feels right for them. Ultimately, the funeral director is the bridge between the silent technical work of the preparation room and the raw emotional needs of the family. They are the interpreter, the counselor, and the protector. This difficult conversation is a profound act of service. It requires the ability to absorb the family's pain without being overwhelmed by it. to provide clear and honest information without being clinical, and to guide them with compassion toward a decision that will best serve their long-term emotional well-being. It is a conversation that sets the stage for the final moment of goodbye, ensuring that when the family does enter the viewing room, they are prepared, supported, and ready to receive the final gentle gift that the restorative artist has so carefully prepared for them. It is a testament to the fact that in death care, the most important tools are not always found in the preparation room. Sometimes, they are the simple human qualities of honesty, empathy, and kindness. A dash funeral dash home dash is dash filled dash with dash a dash hush dash anticipation dot dash. Every dash detail dash has dash been dash attended dash to. Dash the dash lighting dash is dash soft dash and dash indirect comma dash the dash temperature dash is dash cool dash and dash calm comma dash and dash the dash scent dash of dash flowers dash hangs dash gently dash in dash the dash air dot dash all dash the dash hours dash of dash silent comma dash solitary dash work dash in dash the dash preparation dash room comma dash all dash the dash difficult dash and dash compassionate dash conversations dash in dash the dash arrangement dash office comma dash have dash led dash to dash this dash single comma dash profound dash moment dot dash. The dash family dash is dash about dash to dash enter dash the dash room dash for dash their dash final dash goodbye dot dash. This dash is dash the dash culmination comma dash the dash moment dash where dash the dash unseen dash craft dash of dash the dash thanatologist dash finally dash meets dash the dash deep dash human dash need dash of dash the dash bereaved dot dash. It dashes dash where dash science dash and dash art dash become dash a dash direct dash service dash to dash love. As the family steps across the threshold, their world momentarily narrows to a single focal point, the casket at the front of the room. Their steps are hesitant, a mixture of dread and a powerful, irresistible pull. Their hearts are braced for the worst, their minds still haunted by the traumatic narrative of their loved one's death. And then they see. And in that first glance, a profound and often palpable shift occurs. The breath they were holding is released in a soft, trembling exhale. The tension in their shoulders eases, and very often the first words whispered are not of horror, but of relief. It's him, or she looks so peaceful. This dash moment dash of dash recognition dash and dash relief dash is dash the dash successful dash restoration. Quote S dash greatest dash triumph dot dash it dash is dash a dash moment dash of dash profound dash psychological dash importance dash that dash can dash radically dash alter dash the dash course dash of dash a dash family quote S dash grief dash journey dot dash the dash human dash brain dash is dash a dash powerful dash thing comma dash but dash it dash struggles dash with dash ambiguity comma dash. Especially dash in dash the dash face dash of dash death dot dash a dash sudden comma dash violent dash loss dash can dash create dash a dash sense dash of dash unreality comma dash a dash feeling dash of dash disbelief dash that dash can dash be dash a dash barrier dash to dash accepting dash the dash loss dot dash the dash final dash viewing dash pierces dash through dash that dash fog dash of dash denial dot dash it dash provides dash irrefutable comma dash tangible dash proof dash the dash death dash has dash occurred dot dash this dash confirmation comma dash while dash painful comma dash is dash also dash a dash necessary dash anchor dot dash it dash allows dash the dash grieving dash process dash to dash begin dash in dash earnest comma dash grounded dash in dash the dash certainty dash of dash the dash loss but dash the dash gift dash of dash a dash successful dash restoration dash goes dash far dash beyond dash mere dash confirmation dot dash it dash provides dash what dash psychologist dash called dash a dash corrective dash experience dot dash the dash family dash walk dash in dash carrying dash a dash mental dash image dash of dash trauma dash and dash violence dot dash what dash they dash are dash given dash and dash return dash is dash and dash image dash of dash dignity dash and dash repose dot dash the dash restored dash face comma dash looking dash so dash much dash like dash the dash person dash they dash new dash and dash loved comma dash acts dashes dash a dash powerful dash antidote dash to dash the dash poison dash of dash traumatic dash imagery dot dash it dash doesn't quote t dash erase dash the dash horror comma dash but dash it dash provides dash a dash gentle comma dash loving dash final dash chapter dash to dash superimpose dash over dash it dot dash this dash new dash memory dash picture dash becomes dash a dash source dash of dash comfort comma dash a dash mental dash touchstone dash that dash they dash can dash return dash to dash in dash the dash difficult dash months dash and dash years dash ahead dot dash it dash allows dash them dash to dash remember dash their dash love dash one dash not dash as dash a dash victim comma dash but dash as dash the dash person dash they dash were comma dash at dash peace the viewing also reopens the pathways of connection violence severs connection brutally and without warning it leaves words unsaid apologies unmade and love unexpressed. The ability to stand beside the casket provides a final, sacred space for that interrupted dialogue to find a conclusion. A spouse can whisper a final I love you. Dash a dash child dash can dash place dash a dash hand dash drawn dash picture dash beside dash their dash parent dot dash a dash friend dash can dash touch dash a dash shoulder dash and dash silently dash ask dash for dash forgiveness dot dash these dash are dash not dash empty dash gestures dot dash they dash are dash powerful dash rituals dash of dash completion comma dash acts dash of dash love dash that dash help dash to dash soothe dash the dash raw dash wounds dash of dash regret dash and dash unfinished dash business dot dash the dash restorative dash artist comma dash by dash creating dash a dash familiar dash and dash approachable dash presence comma dash facilitates dash these dash essential comma dash healing dash conversations consider dash the dash alternative dot dash a dash close dash casket comma dash while dash sometimes dash necessary comma dash can dash leave dash a dash void dot dash it dash can dash fuel dash the dash imagination dash to dash run dash wild dash with dash horrific dash possibilities dot dash it dash can dash reinforce dash the dash feeling dash of dash unreality comma dash making dash the dash person quote s dash death dash feel dash abstract dash and dash unresolved dot dash the dash eulogies dash are dash spoken dash to dash a dash box comma dash the dash goodbyes dash are dash said dash into dash a dash void dot dash while dash still dash a dash valid dash and dash important dash ritual comma dash it dash lacks dash the dash powerful comma dash grounding dash presence dash of dash the dash beloved quote s dash face dot dash the dash work dash of dash the dash restorative dash artist dash is dash to dash prevent dash This dash void dash whenever dash possible comma dash to dash fill dash it dash with dash and dash image dash of dash piece dash that dash can dash serve dash as dash a dash focal dash point dash for dash the dash community quote s dash grief dash and dash love. This moment of goodbye is the silent and often unacknowledged triumph of the thanatologist. They are not present in the room. Their name is not mentioned. Their hours of meticulous work are meant to be completely invisible. The greatest compliment to their art is when it goes completely unnoticed. When a family member simply says, "He looks just like himself." Dash and dash that dash simple dash statement comma dash the dash entire dash purpose dash of dash. Their dash craft dash is dash fulfilled dot dash. They dash have dash successfully dash erased dash their dash own dash handiwork comma dash along. Dash with dash the dash evidence dash of dash violence comma dash leaving dash only dash the dash recognizable dash essence dash of dash the dash person dash behind. It dashes dash here comma dash and dash the dash quiet dash tears dash of dash a dash grieving dash family comma dash that dash we dash see dash the dash true dash meaning dash of dash this dash work dot dash the dash science dash of dash embalming comma dash the dash anatomy dash of dash reconstruction comma dash the dash artistry dash of dash cosmetics dash 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 they dash are dash not dash ends dash in dash themselves dot dash they dash are dash the dash tools comma dash the dash grammar dash and dash syntax dash of dash a dash language dash whose dash soul dash purpose dash is dash to dash communicate dash one dash final comma dash powerful dash message dash to dash the dash bereaved. The dash person dash you dash love dash is dash at dash peace dot dash the dash struggle dash is dash over dot dash it dash is dash safe dash to dash remember dash them dash now comma dash not dash for dash how dash they dash died comma dash but dash for dash how dash they dash lived. This final peaceful image is a seed of comfort planted in the barren soil of grief, a seed that, in time, can grow into a tree of cherished and enduring memory. The art of restoration, for all its remarkable power, is not magic. It is a craft bound by the limits of physical reality, and its practitioners must possess not only immense skill but also profound humility. There are times in the face of overwhelming and catastrophic trauma when the most compassionate and ethical act is to acknowledge the limits of the art. There are cases where the damage is so extensive, so devastating, that a restorative effort to create a recognizable open casket viewing would be impossible, or worse, would result in an appearance that would be more distressing than comforting for a family. This is the artist's most difficult and solemn duty, to know when to say, "We cannot." This decision is never made lightly. It is reached after a thorough, painstaking assessment of the deceased, a careful reading of the coroner's report, and often a quiet, contemplative period of professional judgment. The artist must weigh the potential benefits against the potential for causing further harm. Would the result be a peaceful representation or a well-intentioned but ultimately unsettling approximation? Is there enough of a foundation to build upon, or would the reconstruction be more sculpture than person? The integrity of the artist and the well-being of the family must always take precedence over any professional pride or desire to conquer a challenge. To push beyond the limits of what is possible is not a kindness. It is a violation of the sacred trust placed in their hands. When this difficult conclusion is reached, the focus of care shifts dramatically. The funeral director, armed with this solemn knowledge, must once again sit down with the family for another difficult conversation. This one requires even more gentleness, more honesty, and more profound empathy than the first. They must gently and respectfully explain that an open casket viewing will not be possible. They will not use graphic details. Instead, they will speak in terms of dignity and memory. They might say, "After a very careful evaluation, we feel that we cannot present your son in a way that would be true to his memory. The nature of his injuries is such that a restoration would not result in the peaceful, familiar image we would want for you to have." This news is often devastating for a family who has been clinging to the hope of a final goodbye. It can feel like a second, final loss. In this critical moment, the role of the funeral director evolves from that of a guide to that of a creative and compassionate facilitator. Their immediate task is to reassure the family that this does not mean a dignified and meaningful farewell is impossible. It simply means they must find a different path of remembrance. The conversation pivots from what is not possible to what is possible. The closed casket, which might have initially seemed like a symbol of failure or denial, is reframed as an act of profound love and protection, a way of shielding their loved one's final image and preserving the family's cherished memories. The casket itself becomes a vessel, a sacred container for the body, but the focus of the funeral can be shifted to other powerful symbols of the person's life. The funeral director will begin to explore a rich tapestry of alternative ways to honor the deceased and facilitate goodbyes. The power of photography becomes paramount. A beautiful, high-quality portrait of the person in life can be placed on or near the casket, or on an easel in a place of honor. This allows mourners to direct their thoughts, their prayers, and their eulogies toward a familiar, smiling face. The funeral becomes a celebration of the person's life, with the photograph serving as the central, comforting image. This simple act shifts the focus from the death to the life, from the trauma to the cherished memories. Memory tables and video tributes also become incredibly powerful tools. The family is encouraged to gather photographs, awards, favorite books, tools from a beloved hobby, or any other items that represent the essence of the person's life. This collection creates a rich, multi-sensory portrait of who the person was, allowing friends and family to reconnect with their unique personality and story. A looping video slideshow, set to their favorite music, can fill the room with images of laughter, joy, and love, creating an atmosphere of warm remembrance rather than somber mourning. These alternatives are not lesser substitutes. They are deeply personal and powerful ways of making the person's spirit and identity vividly present in the room. The funeral director might also suggest rituals that provide a tangible point of connection. A memory box can be placed near the casket, where mourners are invited to write down a favorite memory or a final message on a small card and place it inside. This box can then be buried or cremated with the deceased, a final collection of love sent with them on their journey. Another beautiful ritual involves providing small, smooth stones and permanent markers, inviting guests to write a single word that represents the person to them: kindness, laughter, courage, and to place the stone in a basket near the casket, creating a collective cairn of remembrance. These acts provide a physical outlet for grief and create a lasting communal tribute. Even in the absence of a viewing, the importance of touch can be honored. The funeral director might suggest that the casket be left slightly ajar, allowing the family to place their hands on the interior fabric, knowing their loved one is resting just beyond their touch. Or they may arrange for a lock of hair to be saved, or a clear fingerprint to be taken and preserved in a piece of jewelry. Small, tangible connections that can be a source of immense comfort for years to come. In gently guiding a family down this different path, the death care professional demonstrates that their ultimate commitment is not to a specific procedure, like restorative art, but to the overarching goal of facilitating a healthy and healing bereavement. They show that when one door to closure closes, many others can be opened. The decision to forego a viewing is not an admission of defeat. It is an affirmation of a deeper ethic, an ethic that prioritizes the sanctity of memory and the emotional safety of the living above all else. It is the final quiet proof that the greatest act of care is sometimes knowing when the most skillful hand is the one that is held back. We have journeyed together through a world that is almost always hidden from view. We began in the chaotic aftermath of violence, with its deafening noise and its power to erase identity. We followed a solemn path, from the clinical gaze of the forensic scientist to the quiet, purposeful sanctuary of the preparation room. We have stood beside the restorative artist, witnessing a profound alchemy where science, art, and a deep, silent compassion converge to mend what has been so brutally broken. And we have sat with the funeral director as they gently guided a shattered family toward a final, peaceful memory. Now, at the end of this journey, we are left to reflect on the deeper meaning of this quiet, meticulous, and profoundly human craft. What is it truly that we are witnessing in this process? On the surface, it is a technical procedure, the stabilization of tissue, the suturing of wounds, the application of wax and color. But to see only the technique is to miss the soul of the work entirely. What we are seeing is a quiet but powerful act of defiance. Violence is the ultimate expression of chaos. It is entropy in its most brutal and personal form. It takes a life, a story, a network of love, and shatters it into a million unrecognizable pieces. The work of the restorative artist is a deliberate and methodical stand against this chaos. It is a refusal to accept that the final image of a person's life must be one of disorder and despair. Think of it this way: the artist is a weaver, and a life is a complex and beautiful tapestry. Violence rips that tapestry from the loom, leaving behind torn threads and a gaping hole. The restorative artist, with painstaking patience, sits down at the loom. They do not pretend they can reweave the section that was destroyed. They cannot bring back the life or undo the tragedy. But what they can do is carefully, lovingly, tie off the loose threads. They can mend the edges of the tear, creating a neat and stable seam. They can, through their craft, ensure that the rest of the beautiful, intricate tapestry, the memories of a life lived, the legacy of love and laughter, remains whole and can be cherished without being overshadowed by the violent rip at its end. In mending the broken body, the artist helps to mend the fabric of a family's memory, allowing that memory to triumph over a tragic end. This work is also a profound statement about the nature of human care. In a world that often feels rushed, impersonal, and disconnected, this is a craft of radical, singular attention. For a few hours, in the stillness of that room, the deceased is the absolute center of a universe of care. Every action is taken for their sake and for the sake of those who love them. There is no audience, no applause, no expectation of reward. It is a service performed in its purest form, an anonymous gift from one human being to another in their moment of greatest need. It is a testament to the idea that every single life, regardless of how it ended, deserves a final chapter written in the language of dignity, respect, and peace. It is perhaps the last, purest act of human care one person can provide for another. And what does this journey teach us about ourselves, about our own relationship with mortality? It reminds us that for as long as we have been human, we have been creating meaning around death. We have never been content to let it be a simple biological fact. We have always sought to soften its edges, to ritualize its presence, to find ways to honor the lives that have been lived. From the ancient mummies of Egypt to the modern restorative artist studio, the tools and the theology may have changed, but the fundamental impulse remains the same: to show reverence for the body that housed a soul, and to provide comfort for the community that remains. This work is a modern expression of an ancient human need. As we leave this quiet, hidden world, we are left with a series of gentle, open questions. Is the piece created by the artist's hand an illusion? Or is it the revelation of a deeper truth? The truth that a person's identity is infinitely more resilient than the violence that ended their physical life. When a family sees their loved one at rest, are they seeing a clever reconstruction? Or are they being given a final, grace-filled opportunity to see the face of love itself, unmarred by the transient horror of their death? There are no simple answers to these questions, and perhaps there shouldn't be. The value of this work lies not in its ability to provide certainty, but in its power to create a space for love to have the final word. It is a quiet testament to the enduring power of compassion to bring order to chaos, to find beauty in the broken places, and to gently, respectfully light a single candle against the encroaching darkness.